topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where for the last 16 years we have brought you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. I have had today's show circled because I have never seen a show get so much traction as our expert, attorney Lance Drury. And I asked him, about 3 weeks ago, I said, why don't we just go national with your show? And I got to tell you, we put it out there 2 days ago with YouTube promoting it, our radio station promoting it. And then within 2 days, I got about 30 emails, and from all over the United States. We only have one other show that we do on a national basis. All of our other shows are statewide and local. But I am so happy to welcome attorney Lance Drury. We talk about tax relief. Good morning, attorney.
Good morning, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here, and we're going national, Steve.
Well, I got to tell you, I have never seen anybody who works as hard as you do. And I got to tell you, it's got to be paying off. Wait till you hear. I mean, I'm looking at her list: Atlanta, Albuquerque, Wichita Falls, Kansas City, New Orleans. It's amazing just from 2 days of promoting your new national show. So let's introduce you. Tell people about your law firm.
Well, Steve, we have 4 offices, soon to be 5. We have offices in St. Louis, Missouri. I was there on Saturday. I'm stationed in St. Genevieve, Missouri, which is a small historic French town an hour south of St. Louis. We have 6 people in our Nashville, Tennessee office. We now have 2, soon to be 3 people in our San Antonio office. And by the 1st of November, Steve, we hope to open an office in Houston, Texas as well. And so what we do is we represent individuals and businesses who owe taxes to Uncle Sam. We negotiate settlements. 85 to 90% of our clients never pay back the full amount. 10 to 15% never pay a dime, but it's a lot of work to get there because you have to prove to the satisfaction of the IRS that your client does not have the ability to pay the whole tax liability back.
Lance, you gave us a number, I think it's your last show we did, which I was shocked about. How many people are behind on their taxes? I couldn't believe the number that you gave us.
Yeah, it's 26 million people now in the United States, and the estimate is by the year 2032, there will be 35 million delinquent taxpayers. And by and large, that's normally self-employed individuals. That's 70% or more of my clientele. Those are the people that get in trouble because the taxes aren't automatically taken out. And so, everybody thinks that working for yourself is the American dream, but it's a lot of work. There's a lot more paperwork. It's, and those people work long hours, and a lot of them don't get rich doing it Plus, you've got to fund your own health insurance, your own retirement. So, you better have a different mindset if you want to run your own business.
Absolutely. I got to tell you, we've got so many questions here. Let's get started. Let's start off with Drake in Atlanta. He said, I heard about your show. If you don't mind me asking, I hope this is not a stupid question, but what is the difference between a lien and a levy?
Well, that's a great question. And I can tell you because a lot of people get confused about it. They think they're the same thing. So that's not unusual. But a levy is where the government is actually seizing assets or income. For example, what's the three most common is they're going to garnish your paycheck, which is 90%. If it's a 1099, they can take 100%. They're going to wipe out your bank account, or they're going to take 15% of your Social Security. But if that Social Security check is deposited into your bank account, which they are, guess what? They can take the whole thing. Now, a lien is not an actual seizure of property. It's sort of like when you have a home loan, your mortgage company will file a lien with the recorder of deeds in the county to protect their interest. So they take priority over other creditors. Well, with the IRS, they will file what's called a notice of federal tax lien in the recorder of deeds office in the county of which you live. And it attaches to all current property that you have or that you may have in the future. Now, the IRS is not going to come out for the most part and seize your vehicles. I had the Missouri Department of Revenue seized one of my clients' vehicles once because he only owed $1 million in state sales tax. They were just trying to get his attention because he didn't have the ability, and they didn't get any money out of it because it wasn't worth anything, and there was a loan on it. And as a practical matter, where it rears its head is if you want to sell real estate. Because when you go to sell your real estate, all liens have to be satisfied at the time of sale. So I have people come to me and they don't have any liens and they want to sell their property. I said, okay, do it now before I get you an agreement. Because at the time of getting you an agreement, the IRS is going to file a lien to protect their interest if the liability is over $10,000. Now, sometimes you can talk them out of filing a lien if the liability is under $50,000, but they certainly have the discretion to file a lien if your tax liability is over $10,000. So that's the difference. A levy is a seizure of property or assets or income. A lien just protects their interest. There's no seizure going on at that point.
Sharon in Wichita Falls, your show is godsend. Can your firm help release a bank levy or wage garnishment once it's happened?
Absolutely. But here's what you got to do. It's a lot more work. You're better off stopping the levy. So don't ignore those final notice of intent to levy letters, because if you don't do anything within 30 days, they can seize your property. So yes, but we have to prove to the IRS that it's a financial hardship. And what you can do then is you can get set up on an agreement and the lien will be released. The levy will be released at that time. But you have to make sure that you prove to the satisfaction of the IRS that you don't have the ability to pay back the whole amount and you can't withstand that levy being in place. But the way you do that is to call them up and make sure you get the fax number for the levy department where you work. Because if you don't, they're going to mail it to them. That could take weeks. The post office is the only thing as bad as the IRS nowadays, and they lose stuff all the time or stuff takes forever to get there. So have the fax number ready of the department that does the levy work for your employer and have them fax that release of lien right away to them so that you can get the levy released a lot sooner.
Mark in Kansas City wants to know, can I go to jail for owing taxes?
Well, you can't really go to jail for for owing taxes unless there's a lot of fraud involved, but you can go to jail for not filing your tax return. Now, the likelihood of that happening is not high, but it is a crime not to file your tax return. And in order to be compliant with the IRS, you have to file the last 6 years' tax returns. And this is why I tell everybody, if you don't hire me, there's 3 rules. You hire an attorney that does this every single day. Accountants are great with the numbers, but they only dabble in IRS stuff. And all my attorneys and myself have seen where an accountant will tell his client, if there's 10 years of unfiled returns, file them all. Well, guess what? If you haven't filed and the IRS hasn't filed, your liability is 0. And if you're self-employed and haven't been making estimated tax payments, you could be putting tens of thousands of dollars of tax liability on the books for your client if you have them file beyond the last 6 years. Secondly, go local. And number 3, don't hire one of the big boys. There's a lot of scam artists out there. You got to watch who you hire. We're a 4.8 out of 5 in St. Louis on Google reviews. We're a 4.9 out of 5 in Nashville. I'm 72, Steve. Can you believe it? And we keep growing the office. We've got over 1,000 clients, and we hope to get to 3,000 one of these days. Because I tell my people, we have a moral obligation to help as many people as possible. You know, most tax attorneys talk numbers. I talk financial freedom. I'm the guy who saves Fay Ray from the clutches of King Kong.
I love it. I got to tell you, I do a lot of due diligence on companies because we deal in so many areas. And I got to tell you, Lance, I have seen so many of these big national, and there's a lot of commercials out there on TV, these big national companies that talk tax relief. I got to tell you, if you go in and read a lot of the Google comments, I have never seen so many comments that say, you know, I paid him the money and it was like pulling teeth to get them to return a phone call. And you and I have talked about this, how important customer service is to your firm.
Oh, it's number one. That's our biggest priority is customer service. I can tell you the number one complaint that people make to the bar about attorneys is a lack of communication. We try to get a hold of everybody once a month. If not, we tell them ahead of time, look, there's nothing going to be happening for a few months, so you're not going to hear from us. I mean, the IRS is just so slow now. They're so far behind. I've never seen the IRS this bad. But customer service is number one. So we want to make sure that our people are treated very well. And here's the problem, because I've dealt with people who've gone to those big national firms and then they came to me. Yes. Those guys will take your money. I had a guy, I think it was on Christmas Day. He said, oh, I'm out having dinner in St. Louis on Christmas Day. He says, I need to talk to you. I said, well, call my office. I'll be more than happy. And he had gone to a firm out of Michigan and given them good money and filed an offer, and it was rejected. And I said, yeah, and here's why. You've got too much in your IRA. And they didn't even put the IRA on the OIC form, which, you know, you're submitting all this under penalties of perjury. So not only did they submit an offer that they should never have submitted, you know, they were also falsifying that return. And so, you know, with an offer, it's very formulaic. And for example, in my Nashville area, Steve, I'd say 97, 98% of our clients down in Nashville and the surrounding area do not qualify for an offer in compromise because of the net equity in their home. I don't know how familiar people are, but Nashville is the place to be in the Midwest now.
Yes.
So people are coming in from California. They're paying $200,000 over the listed price. And so everybody's real estate, you know, $750,000, $1 million for a home, the fair market value, that's just how it is down there now. And so they've got all this equity in their home, so they're not going to qualify for an offer in compromise. And we're not going to submit an offer in compromise on behalf of our client unless we believe there's a good chance that offer is going to be accepted.
Lance, we get so many letters about your show asking basically the same question. So I took one of them out. It's from Robert in New Orleans. Is it true you can work something out with the IRS where I only have to pay pennies on the dollar? And I know what that's from. A lot of those commercials talk about pennies on the dollar. First of all, is that true?
It can be. It
Okay.
can be. Like I said earlier, 10 to 15% of our clients never pay a dime, but it's all based on your ability to pay it back. So, a lot of times what happens is, I'll just give you an example. I had a woman over $40,000 in liability. So we went through the numbers and she could pay $600 a month. And there was 4 years left on the running of the statute. So I called her up one day. I said, you need to go out and buy a new car. She said, they're going to let me buy a new car when I owe them all this money? I said, yeah, you've got a car with 200,000 miles. Car's going to break down. You're going to pay the repair bill. You won't have the $600 then to pay the IRS. Guess what happens to the deal I got you? It goes down the drain. You've wasted all your money in hiring me. So she went out, got a $500 a month car payment, paid the IRS $100 a month for 4 years. So she paid less than $5,000 over time on a $40,000 plus debt. So there are certainly things we can do, but obviously if you make $500,000 a year, you're not going to settle for pennies on the dollar.
Right, exactly.
So
but those commercials kind of lead you to believe that, though. That's
it's not just that. The bigger scam that's going on is some of these companies, they don't give you a physical address. They give you an 888 number. It looks like it's an official notice from the IRS that says we can settle for 10 cents on the dollar. So if they're $100,000 in debt, they're going to say we can settle for $10,000. And those are absolutely scam artists. I had somebody here local in St. Genevieve come to me one day, said, I just sent this guy $3,000 yesterday, or he said they were going to arrest me, saying that he was from the IRS. They called me again today and said, they said they need another $3,000 or they're going to come out and arrest me. I said, that's a scam. Give me the phone number.
Yeah.
So I called him up. And as soon as I identified myself as an attorney, they hung up. So you got to watch it. And there's a lot of these big companies, they never tell you how much it's going to cost you. We tell you up front what it's going to cost you. It's all driven by how much you owe, because the more you owe, the more aggressive they get, the more time we have to spend to get your case resolved.
Exactly. Here's Emily in Davenport. She actually saw our promote your show on Facebook. She said, I read on Facebook your show was coming on. I'm so glad I found your show. What are the negatives if I try to negotiate with the IRS myself? Good question.
Well, there's a lot of people that think they can do this on their own, and they're mistaken. People think it's easy. Well, let me tell you, when I was a small town lawyer, I did 15 hours of continuing legal education a year. Now, all 9 lawyers in my offices around the United States, we spend a minimum of 50 to 100 hours a year or more. In early November, we have a 3-day webinar. And so they change things constantly. And if you call them up, and I know this happens because people tell me, people think they can do it on their own. So they call the IRS, they set up an agreement, then they call me. And the first words out of their mouth are, I can't afford the agreement. And I go, then why did you agree to do this? And they go, because this is what the IRS told me I had to pay. I said, that's a lie. It's all based on your ability to pay it back. And, people that fill out those financial statements, nobody fills them out right the first time. That's where you get the biggest bang for your buck in hiring my firm. And so we may have to go back through that 3, 4, 5 times because we got to get the numbers right because you're submitting those under penalties of perjury. So, the one group I never have to convince that they can't do this on their own is attorneys, because attorneys know that if you represent yourself, you're a fool to do that. Even with the IRS takes advantage of lay people. You set up an agreement with them, they're going to get every last penny out of you. I got to tell you another story, Steve. I had a guy once, $40,000 in debt. I got him into currently non-collectible, which means he'll never pay a dime. We wrote him a closing letter and said, hey, they're going to send you a yearly notice reminding you that you owe the tax, but they're not going to levy you. They're not going to come after you. So he got that notice. After my representation had ended, he panicked, called the IRS up, and agreed to pay it all back.
Oh, no, no.
Yes. So, this is why you don't want to do it on your own.
Yes. Here's a good question. Here's from Nick in Tulsa. How is your firm different from other tax resolution companies?
Because we go the extra mile. We go the extra mile, and the firm has a great reputation. I told you earlier that, we keep growing the business, so we got to be doing something right. I told you how well our Google reviews are. What I haven't told you is the national awards that I've won, the speeches I've given across the country. I've been quoted in Forbes magazine. And so,
Wow.
the firm has a great reputation. We do good work. Obviously, every now and then people are going to complain, but those people are those that think that we're going to wave a magic wand or we're going to lie to the IRS on their behalf. And We're not going to do that. Everything we do is above board. We're not going to do anything which would be unethical. So we get great results. We get great reviews. So that's what sets us apart from a lot of these firms. And, for example, I have an attorney in San Antonio. When he was in LA, because I start about 6 o'clock here, the legal assistants come in at 7. And so it's 5 a.m. in LA. And I could call him in LA and he'd be working, and he works nights late. And the guy works weekends. I have some dedicated people that work for me, and, they'll take calls at night. I go to my St. Louis office every Saturday morning. I work every Sunday morning. But you know what? We're here to help people out, and you got to go the extra mile if that's what you want to do.
Hey, Lance, did you ever imagine years ago, because you always refer to yourself, you start off as a small town lawyer. Did you ever imagine creating what you've created? You're national. You're no small time lawyer.
Well, I got to tell you, Donna, who has been my, she's the one that runs the operation, the day-to-day operations. We started doing this like 14 years ago. And I tell her, we sit down when we're talking about, office operations. I said, can you imagine how far and it just boggles her mind.
Now, and she's wonderful too.
I take the opposite position. I say, there's so much more I'm capable of doing, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to quit. I'm going on to the end, Steve.
Well, tell people how they can reach your office. Do you have a main number now for the whole country?
Well, we do have an 888 number. It's at the bottom of your screen. All my office's numbers there. But I'll tell you what you really ought to do is, if you want to see a lot of good stuff and a lot of good reviews and a lot of great testimonials, go to lancedrurylaw.com. There's a lot of good stuff on there, and that's the best way to see what my firm does. And all of the telephone numbers are on that website as well.
Well, Lance is going to be with us. We hope we're going to have him here the first Monday of every month at 8:25 Central, 9:25 Eastern time. Lance, I got to tell you, I like I said, this show has gotten so much traction. We are so lucky to have you. And hey, we're going to see you in a few weeks.
I can't wait, Steve. It's always great to see you.
Best. Thank you, Lance. That's attorney Lance Drury. Folks, if you've got a tax problem, give him a call. No need sleepless nights. That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back in with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.